Let's start with the East then. So most of the bracket we are recording on Wednesday has been set up. The only thing that's not set up is the 1 versus 8, 76ers versus TBD. I'm comfortable saying whoever gets out of there, the 76ers win anyway. Let's just move on, right? The first series I want to talk about is the Nets versus the Celtics. All right. Who do you have?
So it's real hard to defend the Celtics. I think that it took a miraculous effort in the play-in game for them to win. They did pull away late, but the game was pretty close for the most part. Until
Russ played bad the entire time.
Right, Russ played bad. Bradley Beal did not look 100% or even nowhere near it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they're also missing Jaylen Brown.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think there's a high chance the Celtics win unless one of the net stars gets hurt. Another one.
Even if one of them was down, they got all three right now. So even if one of them was down,
that's a very tenuous 3.
Can I back up a little bit?
Yes.
The first thing I want to ask you is, all 3 net stars, are you taking a sweep?
Gentlemen's.
So 5.
Yeah, I think
5
gentlemen's.
games. Okay, I'm with you. We lose a star. How many games do you think it goes?
At least 6.
Does it matter which one?
Oh, I think it does matter. The star I don't think it matters for at all is Kyrie.
Okay.
It's definitely between KD and Harden. They have Harden did really miraculous things with his game once he got to Brooklyn. That made that team a whole lot better. That team with no KD and with Harden looked great. They were winning a ton of games. That team with Kyrie, KD, and no Harden was struggling a little bit. So if Harden gets hurt again, he pulls that hammy again, they got trouble.
All right. God forbid. I will just say that because, we ain't wishing it on nobody, but it is an important variable that we should talk about.
But I'm going back to when they first made the trade, I said I want to see the Nets do it.
Oh, okay.
And to get through 4 rounds of the playoffs, 7-game series, it's going to be tough sledding. I just don't know if they're going to get all the way there. And I think part of it is just going to be because of health. It's going to come down to health.
Okay, I'm with you. I think I'd take the gentleman's sweep as well, barring injuries. Let's move on to what I think is probably going to be the second most competitive series in the first round in the East, but probably the best. Bucks versus the Heat.
So this is where I think we're going to disagree.
Oh, yes, we are.
I think the Bucks are a much improved team.
Agreed.
I said not to sell your stock on the Bucks, that they were tweaking things in the regular season to try to be a better playoff team. We are here 1 year later, and I think in this rematch, I don't know that the Heat have gotten better at all, and arguably some of their younger players have had worse seasons coming in than they did last year.
Okay, I agree.
And the Bucks arguably did improve quite a bit with some acquisitions and the way they play offense now with a little bit more spacing on the floor. And so I think the Bucks want this smoke. They want the rematch. And they want revenge. And so I have no problem picking the Bucks.
And how many games?
6.
6. Okay. Everything you said is right. I think the first thing you need to understand is that the Heat dealt with a lot of issues this year.
Mm-hmm.
They lost Jimmy in the beginning, then they lost Tyler as well in the beginning, then they lost Tyler again. It's been in and out, up and down, a lot of different issues. But I am willing to say, with the addition of Trevor Ariza and what he adds on the defensive end, and we already know Iggy, etc., and just Spo being a really great coach and makes better adjustments than Coach Bud, I think if this goes 6 games, the Miami Heat win. I will say that. If it gets to a game 7, the Bucks will take it. I 100% believe that. Bucks at home, game 7, I feel like they will close. But in 6, the Miami Heat take this one. I'm willing to say that.
I'll also add this. I really do think last year when the Bucks lost, that Giannis was hurt.
He was.
And
I don't think he play every game.
Yeah. But in a way, he was hurt way more than he would, I think, ever admit.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it really had an impact on the series. And so I think a healthy Giannis, the additions they made this year, I'll take the Bucks.
Yeah, but that last series was non-competitive.
No.
So, yeah. All right, I'm with you. This is what I think is probably going to be maybe the most competitive series here. It could go either way. It's a pick 'em, but the Knicks versus the Atlanta Hawks. How do you see this one breaking down?
So I'm gonna go Hawks.
Okay.
Not quite sure how many, but the longer it goes, the worse that is for New York. Here's why. Your favorite coach, Tibbs, notorious for lots of hard practices, plays all of his starters long minutes. That's always been a criticism of Tibbs.
And still, to be fair, Julius Randle leads the league in minutes, and I'm pretty sure another Knicks player is second.
Right. I think the Knicks are the more tired team, and I think that matters for a lot in the playoffs. I think there's rest in between games, but coming in, if the Atlanta Hawks get up on them, if Trae Young gets hot a couple times and they get an early win and they see the ball go in the bucket, that's going to be a problem for the Knicks. I think they have a good defense, but I think that against shooters, that takes away a lot of the things that you can do, especially someone who has the range like Trae Young.
Their perimeter D is really good.
It is really good. But when Young starts to stretch and warp your perimeter defense, which is what happens when he starts shooting those really deep threes, which he will do. He's not as good as Steph or Harden or Dame, but he will do it. He thinks he's as good as them, and that's all that matters in the playoffs. And when that happens, if he sees them go in early, they could win a game or two early and make this go 7. Like I said, the longer this goes, the more likely the Hawks are to win this series.
Okay, I'm willing to take the Knicks here. I just feel like in the playoffs, defense is what wins. The adjustments are what wins. And I think that in combination with just the experienced veterans that were leaders on that Knicks team kind of can take them in the close games that happen. Like, experience-wise, do you think any player on the Hawks can match up with D Rose in a late game situation and knowing how to handle it when it's close?
Experience-wise, no.
I'm just saying the playoffs are the place where experience and defense generally win out, which is why I'm willing to take the Knicks.
But D Rose is the only player on the Knicks who I would probably put in that category for the most part.
So Taj Gibson is also there, and their 10 years of playoff success actually overlap aggressively.
Well, yes, but I don't think if this is the end of the game, the Knicks are putting the ball in Taj Gibson's hands. I think it's more likely to be Randle or Derrick Rose.
Yes, he's a 4.
Yeah, I mean,
agree.
The question,
but that's also about things like situational defense,
yes,
not making mistakes, etc. Like the mistakes are usually what cost you those close games, and I feel like the Hawks are due for more of those mistakes. Even though you might think just raw talent-wise, they're the better team.
Well, this is where the tired argument comes in. When you're tired, the Knicks will make more mistakes. They will be slower to rotate on defense. They will be slower to close out, etc.
I'm just not super concerned about that right now.
Okay.
Like they're getting a pretty large break right now, right before the playoffs start, right? And I agree, they'll play minutes. So I agree with you on the minutes thing and how the longer that can affect things. But I think that's usually a second round issue for teams that get run into the floor.
Usually, except for Tibbs teams. But we'll agree to disagree.
Tibbs is actually pretty good in the first round.
But his teams are worked harder over the course of the season. Collectively, the wear and tear.
And he's still good in the first round.